We are
But what are
live
you eating? Is that an apple? Because now I'm hungry.
Don't we start all of our podcasts like this? Like, what are you pop? What are you
because
eating?
Pot is always eating something. He's always eating something.
Yo, I seen Blue Blood was doing it too now, man. He be eating pizza and everything on this shit, talking like, yo, tearing that shit up, man. Be eating that shit.
That made him getting his flow state. So that's it is what it is.
Are y'all into football? Anybody into football?
Dre is in the football.
Yeah,
I know Drake.
I just finished my situation. Didn't turn out too well, but anyway, yeah, we'll dabble into that.
I know. I just
afterwards.
if you see me not paying attention, it's probably because I'm watching.
Oh no, that's
I'm
fine.
watching
That's
football.
fine.
Okay.
That's perfectly fine. So yeah, we are live. Kim, could you hear us? You there?
I can. You know what?
Okay.
My daughter was calling in. She probably was looking for me, so I had
Okay.
to answer the call, let her know where I was at.
All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and get it started. I'm your brother Mordeeb, as y'all all know by now. I would like to welcome everybody to a POD podcast, Put Out Direct. I am your host, Brother Mordeeb. I would like to welcome the panel today is mostly sisters, and that's for a reason, because we're going to be talking to them about their expectations and their insight on us men in this I guess you would call it a not new but a ever evolving relationship paradigm. And as things change and evolve, we just wanted to know if we still sticking with an old program or we got some new programs going on, and what the deal is on that. I would like to welcome, well, y'all know my co-host, Sister Jay and Lawrence, but I would like to welcome TK Williams, Miss Tasha, and we welcoming Kim back to the show. How y'all doing?
All right.
All is well.
Everybody in good spirits?
Yes.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and roll these credits, and then we're gonna hop right into it, because I know people got things to do, and so we're gonna go ahead and do that and keep
shoes. You know what I mean? Baby need new shoes, brother.
All right. And we are back. We are back. Everybody that's watching via YouTube, please like, subscribe, and share. And hit the like button. Everybody that's in our POD Facebook group, if you have any comments or anything, go ahead and feel free to comment and chat. We will respond accordingly. So let's jump right into it. Today's show is about Ask Her. Here's the thing. This show came about because I feel like things are changing and evolving. And from a male perspective, I didn't want to have this show without having mostly sisters on here to give their perspective on, us men. And me and Pot are going to be here to add in our 2 cents here and there. But for the most part, we're getting you women's perspective on things so you could be heard about, and everybody's different. So we're not saying that we got the right way or the answers to everything, but we want to have a building session on free thought to see where the thermometer is when it comes to how we relate, how men and women are relating today as things evolve. Because I feel like you have the other community, the alphabet community, and I always say this in their, I guess, defense. I don't support that lifestyle, but I do support proactivity, being proactive about what you want to do with your life and being unapologetic about it. And I think that's something we need to adopt as a people of color to move forward with our agenda and not be too concerned with, what people think, and trying to fit into somebody else's view of how we need to see ourselves. And the reason why I say that is because when it comes to relationships, I've observed that we are I'm not going to use the term outdated, but we're in a program that seems to be springing a lot of leaks and a lot of leaks that have been there for a while. And we are the only ones who are still trying to fit the star shape into the square shape. You know, the little game we used to play when we were kids. And if the shape did not fit, it wouldn't go in. We're still having the same issues, but we're not entertaining the conversation about what we can do to be proactive about moving forward if we need to do that. So with that being said, to the ladies, and we're going to start with CK and move our way around. My first question is, can a woman have too much masculine energy in a relationship? And if so, why?
Honestly, yes. Because it comes from, like you said, a systemic breaking of home where we have to be multitasking in our personality. We have to be the woman and the nigga. We got to be the woman and the struggler, the defender, the provider, because you guys sometimes are absent. So yeah, it
Right.
can. And then when it comes time to be a feminine woman, it's a difficult transition because she's now in her age where she raised her children, but that's all she knows. So yeah, I agree that there needs to be a softening, but yeah, it's a condition that women have. Absolutely.
Right.
There is a thing. That is a thing.
What about you, Kim?
Can a woman have too much masculine? You
Yes.
said?
And when I use the term
Much
masculine,
muscle, mouth.
when I
Go
use the
ahead.
term masculine, let me clarify. I'm not saying being a man, but there's
Mhm.
certain actions and things that are masculine in nature. Does that make sense?
Okay. So, I mean, there's different aspects of masculinity with women. So my view is I had to put my life into perspective because my father been in my life all my life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I never had masculine energy. My masculinity, if I had masculine energy towards men, it was because they didn't treat me right. You know what I'm saying? Because I knew how I was supposed to be treated.
Right. Right.
Because of having a father.
Right.
So that would be my defense mechanism.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? Over the years, I think that I had to have some masculine energy because I was a single parent, meaning that I wasn't married to my children's father.
Right.
Not that he wasn't involved. He was involved. He was around.
Right.
We weren't married. So when he wasn't around, I had to come out of that softness and be a mother and father because he wasn't there in those particular times. So that's where I had to come out and have a little bit of masculine energy. But it was never, I never had masculine energy when it ever came to dealing and loving a man.
Okay. Makes sense. Right. What about you, Tasha?
I would say yes. And kind of like what both the ladies said, but in my situation, I had it like in both. With their dad, he was present, but he's around, but he wasn't around enough where I would have to take on the brunt of, you know,
Right.
that. But when we were together, there were times where I felt I might have been a little bit more aggressive, I guess.
Yes.
You know, and I had to take on that form because there was times where I felt like, you know, he didn't step up enough because I grew up with my father in the home. My parents are still together.
Right.
So I know what it's like to have a dad in home and some of the responsibilities that need to be, you know, taken on and doing certain things and when I felt there were times where I felt like I had to be the, you know, aggressor
Understood.
of the situation. So yeah.
Right. What about you, Jay?
I think it's a little bit of what everybody said, but mostly what Curry said, because I didn't even look at it from that point, like, you know, single moms raising kids and having to be like that masculine energy for the kids. But yeah, we do to a degree, like when it comes to that. But what Kim said, as far as like with her man, like I could relate to that, because, like, you know, when it comes to dealing with a man, like masculine energy, technically he's the man, so, you know. Yeah, so yeah, we do have, to a degree, we do.
So it sounds like that what you women are explaining is you had to utilize that form of energy to fill in the gaps and the shortcomings of men, you know, not holding up the end of what their responsibility was. And that's understandable. What about when you don't have to fill in those gaps and he's there? Do you still display a level of masculine energy?
No.
And if so, what warrants that? Will that be a healthy thing?
I do, and I can admit that only because of the aspect of my career. So I have to be a go-getter. I'm up against male Caucasians in my profession, so there's a confidence check constantly. You know that you have to be up to par and you have to be excellent. So I get aggressive and I get hungry, and I am a lioness in the field, and I'm going to overcome. But you have to digress that coming home because it can cross over into competition. It is a healthy masculinity, but you do have to at some point, the feminine part of you is have to acknowledge that you are in a partnership with a male, and at points that it can be attractive and at some points that it's not. But it is very easy for us because what we're doing is overstepping to B and C, not realizing he's already got A. We're just jumping the gun aggressively, trying and not being patient. But part of being a feminine woman is learning how to go back to grandma's reality of relax. Otherwise, you made a bad decision. You should not be with that person. If you can't relax and trust, then you just made the wrong decision. And that's personally me. So yeah, I do see that I have that in me. I'm learning now to not take my career so seriously, but who else gonna pay the bills?
Right. So it sounds like you're really, it sounds like you're really, and I get it. It sounds like you're using that form of energy to be able to
the enemy,
to one, compete in an environment where it may be male dominated, and I get that. So it makes sense. So I completely understand. You know, and the reason why I asked that question is because you have some sisters out there who, even in a healthy, somewhat relationship, they have masculine male energy, and what it does is, like you say, it becomes a competition where you're competing for a position that really is not even your lane.
Right.
Right.
You
That
know.
is true. That's correct.
And that in itself can cause a lot of disturbances and unhealthy situations. And I will go back and concur with what you said about, having that framework when you talk about grandma and mom and seeing those examples, knowing that if he's doing what he's supposed to do as a man in his lane, there's no reason to cross the street and be all in the way.
Right.
So yeah.
Taking up space.
So I get it.
I was just saying that the other day. Has anybody ever told you there's a difference between sit down and sat down? And I was always told to sat down. That means an older person was telling me to sit somewhere, but I'd never realized the difference until recently. Sat down, because I had to tell a child, go sat down. And they're like, don't you mean sit down? No, sat down is a big difference. You in the way. There's definitely a big difference.
It's hard being a man in this world,
Yeah, I mean,
it's a hard task, man. You got to live up to a lot of expectations that don't even really matter to some point. I'm just saying,
sorry y'all feel that way. That's terrible. I really do, because I've seen some disgusting things, and just on the topic of masculine. I mean, I've talked to women in my groups, and just quote unquote, I'm tired of being the nigga. Well, there's men that are not properly leading. Right. Which again, that means the decision of who you're, excluding your time to. But, I was just thinking about y'all, and I was just like, I was worried about doing my hair, putting on a little makeup, and I've had
intimate like messy Stetsy when you first got on here. I'm sorry.
But I've had intimate conversation and friendships with people that I went to school with, so I genuinely love them, and I don't have to give an explanation, and I know that it's mutual. But those are the things you got to think about, that if I'm a younger woman, that's my whole motivation in my makeup to move on this, to get in here and look my best and compete with someone when it's really not, and that's where I think we need to, my passion is why, etiquette, young girl etiquette is very, very important. We lost our way, and we've got to get back to that. Definitely have to get back to that.
So is that your analogy?
Look at Bob.
I'm saying that she get it.
That must
I got it.
Word for the day.
No, somebody talked about that earlier. That's all.
Go ahead. Yeah, somebody in the chat said, let me put it on the screen. Let me see what y'all think about this. It said, when two people come together, you're winning anyway. Do you agree or disagree with that?
It depends on the type of person. Like, two people can come together, but it depends on the type of person. I just said this the other day, that there's a quote that says, the success of a man depends on the type of woman he has beside him. So it, like, two people can come together, but it just depends on who the two people are, like the motivation, the drive, like you can't get in a relationship, like, my opinion, as far as, because I'm a female, I'm not going to get in a relationship with a man and bumping heads with him because I'm trying to, I'm trying to take over his role, of what he needs, what he's to do, and the parts that he needs to play. Like, now if things start to falter or something's going wrong, then I know to kind of like step in and be that backbone. But just like off the rip, I'm not gonna.
Jay, I think that's key. I think we have to put that ball back in the men's court. They just, I mean, it's okay if you need to go digress and have your male bondings, but you all need to also get back into learning how to lead properly. We know you're going to falter. Don't go out there and you be the kiss ass and a nice person out there in public, and I get the shitty part of you. You know what I mean? Leave that out the door, or vice versa. Give me the love and treat them like shit. You have to be able to discern when and when not to do that. So that gets back to fundamental 101 for the men too. But I do definitely can see how that can go, a troubling or hard time for men. But you gotta lead properly.
I think it's a challenge. Like, it's a not really a battle. I don't know the word to use, but it's kind of like, the women are so independent now. So it's like, I don't need a man. I could do this myself, or, I could be the man and the woman or whatever. And then the men are kind of like, well, you know, not all men, but like, oh, she got it, or you know, oh, she could take care of it, or you know what I mean. So it's kind of like like where, or some of them just don't have the foundation of, or maybe don't care, but it's just kind of like just it's not.
Right.
One thing I'm gonna say though,
we've all
me as
lost
a
our
man,
way.
we don't care about a woman's success that much. I really don't care. I don't care if she's rich, poor, or anything. I really just don't care. She just got to have something special for me to like her back in the day. Today, I'm not gonna get in my personal thing, but I'm just saying, like, she can't she just don't really need too much for a man. You know what I mean? It's like we have to live up to all these obligations, but a woman really don't have to live up to crap. You know what I mean? And you know how we see it, because we just want a good woman, really. If we looking for a partner like that,
what equates to a good woman?
Yeah, let me try to clean that up for him, because you know, Pocket throw some stuff out there. I'm gonna have to catch it and clean it up, which is fine. Which is fine.
I was gonna say, how do you keep a straight face all the time? I'm shocked.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying. I'm not saying good. Well, yeah, I'm not saying good, bad. I'm just saying like we you don't need all this stuff to make us want you. That's all I'm saying. You can just be you, and we'll be there. You know what I mean? If we want to really be there, and I mean that's the case. If we really want to be there, and if we really want to be with you, but we don't judge women by what they got. You know what I mean? If we like you, we like you.
Yeah, I kind of.
You gotta do this. You gotta do that. You gotta have this. Men get tired of that shit. That's why men don't really care anymore, because they gotta live up to some expectations. They gotta give up who they are to try and fulfill somebody else's desires, and that's the biggest problem. Men don't care because we ain't trying to do that no more. I'm not. I'm good, but I'm just saying. For most men, I think that's how it is, though.
Yeah, let me jump in here. I think one aspect of what he's saying is, and I agree to it to a degree, that when we're into you guys, we're not really concerned with and this is just on an organic level, because I know in society there's things that you have to have, you know, to survive, to be a functional citizen. You know, you got to be able to you know, pay bills if that's the situation, or you got to be able to you feed your family if that's the situation. So there's fundamental things that we need to function in society. But just on an organic level between man and woman, when we are into you, we're not really concerned with, you know, if you have X, Y, and Z too tough, because as a man, we're probably going to come to the table with those things anyway. And this goes into the question I want to ask next. Do you think we need to update our relationship format, or get back to the traditional format? Because if we're speaking traditional, then men back in the day, you know, our parents' time, if they were into a woman, they were into her. He had to bring everything else to sustain food, shelter, and clothing. She made a home, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But my question is now, do we need to update that, or go back to you know?
I personally think that I'm more of a traditional person. So, and I throughout whenever I speak, I'm gonna reference back to my parents,
right?
Because that's my foundation. Okay, my parents been happily married for 63 years.
Wow.
Happily married, same mother, same father, all my siblings growing up. So be it, you know.
Right.
But anyway, moving forward, I think my mom, like I talk more with my mom now more than I did when I was 17 to 25.
Me too.
So being that I was raised in a traditional household, right? My mom was already grooming me at the age of 17 to be a wife.
Right.
Because she was married already to my father, 20-something, 30-something years. You get what I'm saying? So I think in that era, most of my friends came out of single parent households.
True.
Okay. So that traditional upbringing that I was being groomed to be a wife, it didn't sit in my head then. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I didn't comprehend it. I comprehend it now at 40 something, after I've dealt with failed relationships.
Right.
I comprehend it now. So I know that as a woman, I know my place. I've always known my place anyway. It was
Go
the
ahead,
men,
Kim, honey.
It was the
She's
men that
saying
I was
everything.
dealing with. It was the men that I was dealing with who didn't have fathers.
Right. Makes sense.
That didn't teach them. That didn't groom them how to treat me.
Right.
Because on the opposite side, I had already naturally was submissive.
Right.
Because of my mother was already grooming me, like I said, to be a wife. You get what I'm saying? So
I got a question.
that
This is not just you, for all y'all.
I agree with Kim 100%. So
I agree too.
No. I'm not saying I don't agree with her. I'm talking about I just got a question. Like, okay, the men that you dealt with, right? When you first met them, where did they how were they financially? Like, where did they stand financially? Like, just where they at?
So to be honest with you, my energy is set up to never, ever, I'm never going to exchange energy with a man that don't have money. Any man that I deal with, he got money. Now, if he got brains, that's a whole nother different situation. Okay?
But I'm not saying money. I'm talking about foundation.
Financially wise, foundation. And let me get to where I'm about to tell you something real quick. Okay? Foundation wise, I dealt with men who came from 2-parent homes as well. Right? But their 2-parent homes was different from mine. My father was a loving father. Whereas their father wasn't a loving father to their mother. See, this is the thing that we go through now, where you get in a situation where I marry a man because I want to be married.
Right.
I marry a man because I got children with him.
Right.
We don't marry out of love. Me and my sisters were conceived out of love. It's a big difference.
I like that.
It's a big difference with that situation, because now I'm thinking everybody like my dad. You know, you got to practice that. That's where they come. Oh, now, at a certain age, you get discernment. You know how to practice that discernment. You know what I'm saying? You don't get it when you're 17 or 25. You're going to have that mess up, that F up phase.
Right.
So even though I'm looking at men who come from 2-parent households, but I'm dealing with a man whose father beats his mother. Right? That's her husband. That's her husband. Her husband comes home and whoop her ass every day. And he shows that in front of the children. So how do you think that man is going to treat his woman?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So men don't understand where you say, the finances and da-da-da-da-da. Listen, that don't matter. That don't mean nothing.
Right.
Because there are people who are married, who have the men who are they practice infidelity. And that woman sticks around and know her husband got 4 mistresses. What you think her 3 sons gonna do? When he see his father do that, even though he come from a 2-parent home.
Right. So just the numbers of 2 people being together is not. We got to start getting back to and I guess the question that I asked, and that's good, Kim, and I feel you're passionate at, but we really need to get back to a system of learning about our families. Like when you meet someone, learning about their family structure, their history, what they come from, you know, psychoanalyzing people, seeing where their headspace is. And this is what we're supposed to be doing when we're just dating, just getting to know a person. And people have forgotten how to actively do that. Me personally, I could psychoanalyze a person. Give me an hour with them, and I could tell you some of the deep things about them just by having a conversation. You know, the feds can go through your trash and look at everything in your trash and have a whole blueprint on the type of person you are and the type of lifestyle you have. Just by even, they can tell if you're healthy, if you got a lot of processed bullshit in your trash can, the whole nine. We got to get back to the fundamentals of understanding, you know, not just our family structure, knowing who you are, because Kim is explaining a framework. She comes from a framework. Everybody comes from a framework. Doesn't mean if that framework is good for a relationship, but we all got a framework we're going to pull from.
Not everybody was meant for that either, though. So, you know, some people live differently and they try to force themselves to be what they tell you you're supposed to be. And I think that's the big issue too. Like, you're trying to be something that you're not designed to be. You get yourself caught up in a world of trouble when you do that. And I think a lot of people do that because they're trying to fit this image before they actually want to know who they are. Like, it's like they're holding back on who they are to be something else. And I think that's a reason why a lot of things fail too, because with some people, they don't really ever want to get married. Some people really don't, you know what I mean? But they do it because they feel like they're doing the right thing. And that's the problem. That's the problem with marriage and all that stuff. Well, you know, so I'm just putting my...
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm saying, but no, I'm finished. I'm just saying, like, most men, I'm speaking for me, but I know a lot of men are like that. A lot of things that I did in my life, I got emotionally attached, but I really wasn't. I was fighting two sides of me. One side, no, I don't want to be bothered. You know what I mean? Then the other side, but this is what you're supposed to do. And you try and follow that. And it's chaos because you're not really designed to do it. You're not that person. And then you're judged. Oh, he's a piece of shit. He's not this, that. But that's your fault because you put yourself in a situation, you know what I mean, that you didn't belong in. And I think that goes for women and men, not just men, but women and men. Like, it's like people think they're in love or want to be with somebody forever just because they had a good time, or, you know, everything is going glory when they first meet, and then it just becomes chaos. But most of the time, some people are designed to be by themselves and just be recreational in life and not be tied down with a family and all that. People are designed differently mentally, to me.
That's a free will thing.
And to bounce back to what you were saying about how the foundation, like how you have to, it's basically called vetting.
Right.
So back in the day, and my mom used to say this, and like I said, my mom, when I was born, my mother was 40. My mother's 83. Okay, and I'm 45. So imagine back in high school, my parents was in their 50s and retired. So I'm different.
Wow.
My close friends knew, but if you wasn't my friend and you were looking on the outside, you probably thought I was just some little hood booger running through the hood, you know, the area, something. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is, my mom was so wise at a young age that I couldn't process the information that she was giving me because I was young. So my mom used to tell me what her great-grandmother would do. Mind you, my great-grandmother died when I was in high school. She was 106. So imagine someone at 15, 16 could talk to a 106-year-old woman. You know what I'm saying? I was blessed.
That's such a blessing. I was just saying that in my head. Like I said it like 5 times.
I didn't even know it because I kind of wanted to fit in with everybody else, you know. But at the end of the day, like my mother would tell me that they had a serious vetting process back then in those days.
Yeah.
They had a vetting, and that the man had to come and ask the family if he could even take her on a date.
Yeah.
I like that though.
And then at some point where the grandmother or whoever, the aunt or whoever was the matriarch in the family, right, would ask, who are your people?
Right.
Who are your people? What's their last name?
Yep.
And if it was one bad thing about your family, you weren't dating my daughter.
Right.
Period.
Right.
So if you was an alcoholic, your uncle was an alcoholic, he was a drunk, you weren't dating my daughter.
What about they smoke weed? The same thing, right?
I don't know if they smoked weed back then.
No.
It was more so moonshine.
Moonshine, yeah.
Moonshine. So if your uncle was accused of raping someone in the family, you wasn't dating my daughter.
True.
Because the elders knew. Because they talked amongst each other, and it was ordered to keep the bloodline pure.
Right.
Yeah.
Because mental shit is everything. Because you can taint a bloodline by dealing with somebody who got a third cousin that's crazy.
Well,
I guess this is our version of church, and Kim is the preacher.
Yeah, man.
Honey, but
no,
listen,
she no, that's right. That's
I had to that whole men, because I've had failed relationships. You know what I'm saying? I'm not happy about dealing. I mean, I was in a relationship for 17 years, and I don't think nobody knew because I never posted him.
right.
Well, you wouldn't even know that I was in a relationship for 17 years. I
thought you was a bad girl back in the day.
I could have been married 3 times and refused the marriage, but it was because I was more so. I guess that called you get complacent where somebody got money and they can take care of you.
That's how it starts too.
You know what I'm saying? And then as you start to think more, you be like, oh shoot, that ain't what I'm looking for. You know what I'm saying? So then you realize, and it happens. And like you said, Patty, there are people who are not cut out for marriage. There are some people who maybe are meant to just date for the rest of their lives.
Right. This is true. So yeah, just to add on to what she said, to the question I asked, do we need to upgrade based on everything that's going on, or do we need to get back to a traditional format? And this is all in respect to all the challenges that we're having right now.
We can't get back, right?
Yes, we
is
can.
transforming into a demon right now. People ways so far from that, money took over, man. Money is God now here, man. Money is religion here. Money is everything here now, man. That took away respect and everything else, man. Like, you really can't go back. You got to adapt and try to make a format with this type of situation now. You know what I mean? I don't think we can go back to traditional. That's too real. That's how I feel. It's too real for a fake world.
Y'all hear that?
Yeah.
That's you farting in the background. Who farting, man?
I don't know what that is. Sound like static or something.
It does sound like static, like a buzzing.
I don't know what that is.
Let me see something. It stopped. That must have been Kim. She was having some static. But nah, go ahead.
Sorry.
What'd you say? Go ahead. Because I know you had your hand up.
Me or
yeah. You can go ahead.
So to piggyback off of what Kim said, she had some very good points, because that basically goes into also culture and how we're raised.
Right.
And my culture being different, that is definitely, you know, train of a woman comes from the womb. And there's certain aspects of men having a certain cloth of courting. Courting courtship doesn't happen. That whole phase is gone. So I would like to say that I would like to see us, those of us that are conscious of enough to know that we need to keep the traditional foundation. But as we evolve and grow, yes, we need to deal with the situations that are new, because we're not going to be stuck. We don't want to be a stuck people. We want to continually value the new situations and operate accordingly. That's the only way you make that gate stronger. So you still have to stick to the foundation. That's the whole reason why our ancestors are pissed the hell off, because we just out here running amok and we just forgetting all about our whole history. And even it's not even about history, it's about the history of structure of family, period.
But you know what happened, right? We lost important people in our families, and all tradition dies when the older people die.
I can't swallow that. That's just like denouncing who you.
No. Hold up. This is what I'm saying. Like most families, right? Like you know, we was talking about tradition. When families fade away, usually there's people that hold those families together, like a Big Mama's, you know, something like that for, like, you know, Thanksgiving. Like there is no Thanksgiving if Big Mama died, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. That's what I'm trying to explain. Like, and I know a couple of people like that, like when a person died that held the family together and have all these events. Once that person passed, all of that passed too. You know what I mean? So I think that can be a part of what's going on today too. Is like you lose tradition when you lose your elders. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say. So elders deceased.
I get that. That I could see. But then that's where, what are we going to do? Are we going to take responsibility or complain that that person's gone? Pick up the shoes and wear it. Walk in the authority.
Yeah, that's what we got to do. Somebody, but most people
is passed. Like,
you got cannot,
because they're not here forever. So
right.
They pass the baton, and we're supposed to continue that.
Right.
But there's a bridge with that right now, heavily. There's a bridge with passing that baton. There's walls now. Like people are just completely just going their way and not even caring about, you know, that baton.
And that's truly because as we start to move out and have our own families, we separate. And then we become non-communicative to the rest of the family. You have your own traditions and your own lifestyle, and people, what's this quote unquote, I ain't got time, I ain't got whatever, and the structure of family does fade. However, if that's the case, you know how to pick up and move on and keep the structure going. As more people start to follow you because you're leading now, then they'll come back. But if we're just going to sit here and complain about what we ain't going to do, then you're never going to get anywhere in what you're going to do. You know, so. And it's a real issue, Patty, what you're saying, and that is true. It hurts. You know, I lost my dad, you know, and I still, when you come from family structure, and like right now, I'll just give you a little bit of open story. My dad passed of cancer. He died on his birthday in 2019. Now my mother has cancer. So now it's just me and my sister. I lost my brother. I lost my elders. So I'm going to just sit here and just be like, you know, what's going to happen when they go, and the whole family is going to just and not happen. So that means Curry needs to get in alignment. I need to operate in the order, and what's going to happen if I lose my mom. So when the time comes when I learn that she has cancer, or I just lost my dad, that means coat off, boxing gloves on. It's time for me to step up. That's what people have lost. The ability
exactly. That's what you're saying. That's the root. Some people just, once that person gone, it just all stops because nobody picks it up anymore. Nobody, because I actually was talking to somebody, you know, they lost somebody very important. And, you know, I was asking them, you know, because I used to go to, you know, Thanksgiving and Christmas parties with them and all that. And I was like, do y'all still be having those parties? She's like, no, that stopped when whatchamacallit died. I was like, damn. She's like, yeah, she always held those events and kept the family together. But ever since she passed, that's all been canceled. You know, nobody does it anymore. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I kind of came up with that, because and then I thought about Big Mama, like, you know, on that movie. What was that? I think that was Medea or something like that. They was arguing, fight, you know what I mean? Then they had to think about her to keep that tradition going, you know what I mean? And I think that was a message from that movie. It was actually telling you something. When you lose those, you know, those elders, you gotta, pass it on. I mean, you gotta take that torch. If you don't, it gets erased, and then families are lost.
And I think with what is your name? CK Williams?
CK.
Okay.
CK.
I think what you said, as far as somebody needs to step up, is definitely somebody really needs to step up, and it should be a one who is an elder, but it don't necessarily have to be, because I know that I am the youngest of the family, and I host a lot of things at my house. I step up to the plate. I lost my middle sister last year, and my older sister, she's more, kind of laid back. She don't say much, do too much. So as the younger sister, I have to step up to the plate. Say, look, where are we having Thanksgiving dinner this year? Right. Whose house? What are we doing?
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
And a lot of times, it's when those situations break, those are traumatizing.
Right.
Yeah.
Those are traumatizing to individuals because they're so used to being with family, and when you break that chain, it could be very traumatizing to the younger generation, the ones who actually should keep the tradition going. And that hurts when you lose someone and you guys are so used to being connected and united. That's a traumatizing event.
Right.
You know what? So, that should be another show, because there's also a spinoff to what Kim is saying, is because now that, say, for example, we have younger siblings, and sometimes I know in some families, the oldest sibling is not more responsible, but let's just talk about the collective order of family, like Kim is explaining, because that's a whole nother issue. Some of these young people, I be wanting to put my hands on their neck because they don't respect the natural order of how things go. They overstep, they disrespect, they're out of line, and they don't follow the chain of command in family. And that's what, that's a whole nother issue all based off of what Kim is saying.
But what
because
happens,
now the foundation of what Patty's saying is that those elders are gone. And then when someone takes the responsibility, because sometimes even if a family would like to take a vote or step in line or whatever happens, and to me, I don't know, I think I'm kind of more like Kim. I'm not going to wait for somebody to appoint me. I'm just going to go ahead and put my foot in and start working. If someone wants to help or say, let's, do this, that's fine. But when these young people step out of line and get the family all disarray and out of order, that's a whole nother ball game.
These young people now, like, we can't really blame the young people because those young people came from us.
Right.
Exactly.
Like, they came from us, like our generation. You know what I'm saying? And now they are having children. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, because I think like Big Mama and having grandparents and all of those people like that instilled like certain value. I think we were the last generation for that. Like, I really think that, we were the last to actually have like, oh, I'm at my grandma's house, or like, because grandma now is, about 40,
20 years old,
whatever have you. And they're not passing on those things. But the young people that we talk about right now came from us. So we have a level of responsibility as far as that.
And that triggers down to what we're going through right now. That triggers down to the whole thing that we're talking about.
Exactly. So you got to remember that when we look at the young generation, they don't have family structure.
That's basically what I was trying to say.
They don't have valuable men, because men hold the women don't listen. Women, I mean, it's a very toughy situation when you're dealing with women who don't have men in their life. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to have a man in your life to have a foundation. And you don't have no foundation with women. Period. Okay? You need a man.
Women say that.
And And that's true.
You need a man. So these kids coming up, and even in our era, even in our generation,
what I was about to say.
We don't have no men. They don't have no men. The foundation is a man. He holds the glue.
Yep.
I mean, he's the glue that holds it together.
And that's what I start about. Like, what do they have before they start trying to build a family? That's what I'm saying. First, you build a foundation, and then you start searching for the person to fulfill the foundation. You know what I mean? A lot of us start off with nothing, and it end up being chaos because there's no foundation to start off with. And I think that's a big thing too with why relationships fail and all that shit, because usually both people ain't got shit, or somebody got money, but they still ain't got no foundation. Who cares how much money you got if you ain't got no fucking foundation? That's why I said a man should not involve with a woman unless he has a foundation first. And that's how I see it. You gotta have a foundation first before you think about marriage and a fucking family.
Yeah, a man has to have it. Man has to have it all. Better.
Yeah, Kim just said what the foundation was. It's the man.
It's the man. It's the man.
That's how
the man can control a woman. The man. I mean, I don't mean control, because when women hear that a man needs to control,
I know exactly what you're saying.
We get
defensive
when we say, oh, a man got to control. The man is a controller. If the man is in the right state of mind, he can produce the woman to how he want her to be.
He don't really have to do too much though if he got his shit together though with his foundation and everything. You don't have to do so much. She'll just fall in place. That's like kids. Kids fall in place when there's a father in the house. And you don't have to say too much if there's a father present in the house. His presence already is fucking commanding the DNA. It's like they respond.
In some cases, because you have some cases where different. You have some women that have fantastic men in the house, and they still try to be, they still have the balls. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know.
It depends.
But then that's not a man. That's
I'm about to say something with him that's wrong. It's something with him wrong. Something's going.
That's not a man. Let me tell you something. You want to know how old I was when I found out? I found out my mother never cooked.
Damn.
I was 40 years old. My sister called me. She was living with my parents, my sister that passed away, because my sister was out in the streets for like 30 years, like she lived a real rugged, crazy life. So she was with my mom, and she said, your mom, she don't do shit. What you mean? She said, your mother don't do nothing in this house. She don't cook, she don't clean, she don't do nothing.
Damn.
And my sister could have been high. My sister could have been high saying that, because when you high, you speak a sober mind.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I said, I don't understand. Mommy did everything. She said, no, she don't. Your father cook every night. My dad cook every night? You lying. My dad clean the dishes. He clean the house. My dad control that whole situation. My mother worked part-time.
That's a hard spot right there, boy.
He was in control. He taught my mother how to cook. He taught us how to cook. My father wore the pants. He was the foundation of everything. We probably wouldn't know how to survive without my father. And that's real talk.
Like in Kim, more and more I hear her talk. Damn.
Let me tell you something. I'm sorry, but those are things that I was ashamed of growing up.
And that's the immaturity in us. Like that
immaturity, we were ashamed of, because we thought that other people had the better life.
Right.
Foundation is important. I have another question.
Definitely important. I had a question too, if you don't mind.
Go ahead,
Dre, because I think Jay and Kim touched on it, because as we, like you said, Jay, we were the product of producing some of these kids that don't have the respect of natural order. But then that just goes into something that I had to ask, because I responsibility on the man, because it is also the woman's responsibility. We cannot keep pushing all of that responsibility, because when I noticed today, and this was a question, now when you have a grandma, right, your mother, or our mother, Kim, your mother, and you have your children, that's grandma, right? And then your mother, whether she's living or not, that would be Nana. Am I right on that? And what I've been seeing is that these young women, and because then if they're coming from us, then women were lacking in our responsibility, because I'm seeing women omit the whole grandma and calling themselves Nana. But what are you going to call your mom? You understand what I'm saying? So we have a responsibility now. It's either a catch-22. Do we correct that, or we get cussed out, or do we just, try to handle it? It's the situation of where just even listening back and forth and having that conversation, maybe even to just find out why they're doing it. It's just, that's where we will be a muck. Because it's not just muscle foundation. If it's foundation, we're going to put the responsibility of foundation on the man, then the woman needs to go ahead and correct the levels of the foundation. She needs to be the glue of the foundation. And that's what I think Kim was explaining. And also Jay, when Jay said that they're a product of us, well, then we have to start realizing the product that we're building is failing us, and we need to correct it.
It definitely is, and Kim kind of touched on what I was trying to say, and I didn't say it, like I didn't articulate it properly. Also, a lot of us, like they came from us, this younger generation with their disrespect and how they are and whatever have you. They came from us, but a lot of us, like what Kim was saying, that she was raised with two parents in the house. I was raised with two parents in the house too. But a lot of other people only had one, one parent. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then we gave birth to children. Like we weren't looking, and we were young. Like a lot of us had children when we were teenagers. You know what I'm saying?
So that's, like, that's a big issue too. Just us having the freedom to even be not old enough to even do that. Go ahead.
When I had my oldest son, it was like a rare commodity, like not really rare, like people were getting pregnant, but it was like secret, like hiding them. And I remember the high school wanted me to leave the high school because they didn't want me to influence other girls, like having children. So that says like we were young, and it was just like we didn't have certain foundations ourselves as far as knowing certain things that you needed to do and blah, 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 and all of that, especially the guys. You know what I'm saying?
Ain't that crazy, though?
The young people now, like, let's just say you're a parent at 17 years old, you're a mom. And, like you have certain foundations depending on the household that you're raised in. You have certain things that you might teach them. But if you're at a point where, like, my mother catered and she was like, my father didn't have to do much of anything but work and provide for the house. And she was, but I saw that and I'm like, what is she, crazy? Like, I ain't about to be a woman like her. Well, like, what is she, a slave? Like, that type of thing. And that was immaturity. Now it's looking back, like, my mother knew exactly what the hell she was doing. If I had that maturity then, I would know, like, raising my children, exactly the steps that I needed to take. But being a teenager and you're being rebellious or, picking up nonsense that you're learning in the street and all of this other stuff. And this is actually what
Because you ain't supposed to be a parent at that age, and I think that's another problem. Like,
exactly.
These young kids, like, for instance, like they be young as hell, and they kind of think that it's simple to run a family, or like, okay, I'm gonna have this baby, and we gonna do this, and that's not the thing, man. It just doesn't. 99% out of the time, you're heading for failure. You know what I mean? Because you can't be a teenager trying to start a life. Both of y'all niggas ain't even got fucking working papers and shit.
Absolutely. And
talking about you about to have all this shit. That's the first breakdown, trying to have a foundation. You don't even have one. It's crazy, but I understand what you're saying.
You know how many
A lot
times
of
I say I wish I knew then what I know now. Like I would have taught my kids so much more. Like gave them a better understanding of certain things. I teach them now, but you know, like foundation, like you know, when you
Sex,
know better,
man.
you do better. Technically,
Man, sex, man. We got too much freedom. We can have sex whenever we want. That's a big issue. Like when you're too young, you're just too damn young to be playing a grown-up's game. You know, young minds playing grown-up games, man, fantasizing and shit.
And you know what? That brings it back to Joanne, what I was saying earlier. How I was saying that.
I used to belly like every day.
What happened? I didn't hear. Y'all both was at the same time.
Sorry.
You know, I was saying today, I was like, I'm glad she chose to stay in school because she was one of the cutest pregnant women I saw, and I used to rub her belly all the time when we were in high school.
Who?
Jay. Jay was so cute.
Oh, Joanne?
Yes.
Joanne was a grown-ass woman in school. I thought she was too old to be.
But I really wasn't. I might have came off that way, but I really, really wasn't. I was so immature and stupid, like just like immature and just stupid.
She was scared, but she held on strong, and she was adamant, like you said. She chose to stick it out with her peers.
Yeah,
she sure did. So that was a good.
I'm stubborn. They wanted to move me, but I
I think that what you guys are saying. I think that's the first part with teenagers, and I think we need to work on like the freedom of teenagers just having sex like that and having babies and stuff.
That's
I think
that's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah.
I know, but it just breaks down to all of it though. It's all like levels to the shit that where we at right now. It's levels to that shit.
Kim,
you know what I mean?
Were saying something.
No, I was just saying that goes back to me saying that I mean I know your family. Or I knew your other side of the family before I knew you.
Right.
Because I lived down the street from your cousins.
Right. Right.
One of them was standing on the one corner going to school, and I was standing on the other corner. So I kind of know the family structure. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So that goes back to me saying that we were being groomed by our mothers already to be wives.
Right.
But we weren't able to process it.
Maturity.
At that age.
So every time I go down,
because had we did that, we would have and don't, I'm not trying to judge, because now as a mother, single mother, because I'm not married to my children's father, even though their father is in their life and has always been in their life. We co-parent. But raising my daughters, I try not to be judgmental. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And back then, our parents probably were a little judgmental. Because they knew. They knew the type of friends we were bringing to the house wasn't no good for us, right? They knew that, because more so our parents was trying to steer us in the direction of education, which we know is a fraud now.
Right.
We know that's a fraud now, because a woman with too much education, a man don't really want her because she know too much. You know what I'm saying? But our parents were, they didn't think, they thought they were a little kind of confused too, because they thought that education was the key, and that would get us to get the right husband. We would get married and be better, way better than they were.
Right.
And it flipped shit on us, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It flipped shit on a lot of people, on a lot of women.
Exactly.
Because a lot of educated women are single.
A lot of them.
More than yeah.
Bachelor's degree. They single. They don't got no man.
Yeah.
Right. Facts. So the next question I wanted to ask, moving right along, how important is being submissive, you know, in a relationship from a woman's perspective?
People hear that word and get terrified, like, or all of a sudden it's like, because I was one of those people. Like, submit to what? Like, but it's very important.
Very.
I think it's very important. Like, and I don't think, like, being submissive, I don't think it's even a thing. Like, when you're in a relation, like, it just comes naturally, like, where, you know, I don't even want to say your place as a woman and what the man is supposed, like, your place, because it sounds like I'm, you know, but you, like, you know, like, your position, like, you know what I'm saying?
When
naturally, I think it comes naturally for women.
Naturally
like,
submit.
It should come naturally for women.
Right. If a man is leading properly and you feel safe and you feel protected, we naturally submit. Now, we also even naturally submit to the wrong men off base, off rip, until we see that. But it's not just necessarily that we're the only one. I'm not going to say this, but I will put it out there. It's going to be a whole nother subject. But men submit to us as well.
Right.
Yeah, I'm about to say that too.
They do.
The power that we silently have, and I'll never abuse that, but I just have to put that out there, that if you're not submitting and leading properly, that's probably why more than less that we're not submitting the way you want.
But you know what? Submission is not selective. Like, you know, it's not selective. Like, you know, if you're with somebody and you decide to be with a person, like, naturally you allow that man to be a man, or allow that person to lead and do, you know, you step in when you need to step in. But I mean, that doesn't mean, like, lay down and be a dog man, you know, like, or, you know, don't stand up for yourself. If you, like, you guys are going back and forth and argue, just shut up and, you know, take it. No, but, like, there's no select, like, I think we've all been submissive to the wrong person, you know what I'm saying? But it's not, so it's, to me, it's not selective. Like, if I'm in something and I decide, like, yes, we're gonna be in a relationship, and, you know, we're gonna, you know, or we decide that, then yeah, there's a level of submission.
We do have the submission rule kind of a little bit out of whack. Because women are supposed to be submissive to all men, 100%. No pick and choose relationship or not. We are supposed to be submissive to men, period. Whether it's an intimate basis or not, there's a realm of respect that we give them. And that's where I think I had a problem too with being submissive. I thought the same thing as Jay said, getting married. Like, I'm not doing that. Even though I knew in the back of my head I was wrong, I just verbally could not stomach to say certain things or do certain things. That was that male masculinity thing in me, like, not happening. Sorry, Captain. But
I think I thought my mother was an idiot, like, watching her do it, and I made sure, I was like, I'm gonna be the total opposite of this woman, because she lost her mind. Like,
you know what, I actually, and I'm not gonna lie to you, within the last year, I started taking back the authority to claim our submissiveness to one another. So when I'm speaking to a gentleman, either I address him as my Lord, or whatever the situation is, because that is what that was taken away from us. And when you see other people still using our rule and civilized manner, it's an insult to us. And it's even an insult of, oh, I'm not going to call him my, well, that's basically, they stole us, and that's what they're doing. So I don't have a problem with calling Dre or Pop my Lord, or yes, my Lord, because that's where we need to get back into. That's the natural order to where things are respectable, to why their men defend them and protect them in public. They don't let outsiders disrespect them. That's because they have that submissive aspect from every woman that walks past them.
No different than, you know, sisters using the term king, like referring to, like, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, I can definitely I can dig that, and not from an egotistical perspective just because I'm a man. But
I think it's sexy though. Yes, my Lord. Yes.
I think so too. Yeah. I think it's sexy too. Like,
but what that also does is it instills into the man as well as the young men that they have a level of royalty and importance in society. Like, that's psychologically, that does something to you to build you up when you hear that.
It affirms.
We need to take that back. Yes. Absolutely.
Well,
So
I think
go ahead.
yeah, that should trickle down to a lot of stuff though, man. Like just the stuff like boy, girl, stuff like that, man. That should play a part in everything, man. It just play a part in everything. Just the labels on you play a part, a psychological part in your life. Like you said, if you call somebody even like something more powerful, they'll kind of stand on that more and not be something, we downgrade us ourselves. Like, young men in the house, they usually call them master, but nobody calls the young man in the house master, right? You don't call your son that, right, Dre?
What, master?
Yeah.
No. But when we look at movies, entertainment, and you look at, let's just say going back, they use a lot of phrases and terms that we don't get all feeling and crunched up about it when we're watching on television, when they use terms like my lord or sire or any type of royal attribute that you want to give to a person. We don't trip about that when we're watching on TV, but when it comes to us in real time,
it seems like it's unattainable.
Yeah, we feel weird and all of that, and that's something that we really need to get past. And we're kind of working on that in our own organic way, because the universe has a way of changing things. So we use the term king a lot now, or queen, or these attributes.
You can't tell my grandson he's not a king, because all the time he's rotten, but yeah, king.
And that's a good thing, because like Papa said, you're building up that confidence. We're taking that back. We need to do that. Absolutely.
Right. The next question I wanted to ask was how important is it, for a woman to be spiritually or culturally sound in a home for protection reasons?
Y'all already know me. Y'all already know.
I think it's really important.
Why?
Because the woman, ultimately, she's it. She's the if you have children or your husband or whatever the case is, he's sick, you need to be able to take care of that. If there's some weird energy going on, you need to be able to take care of that. Like I think it's very important. I mean, for both parties, but I think the woman is like we're the mothers. So I think that's an us thing.
That comes from the men are the actual physical protectors. We are the spiritual and mental protectors. You're in alignment with that process, then, because you're actually defending a power over your mate or partner or whatever that situation is. And to be honest with you, men, that Dre goes back into saying, when you watch certain things or cultures, in my culture, my dad would make the ultimate decision, but he spoke with his wife first. Right. And if she was along with it, then he'll proceed. But even if she did disagree, he's going to try to handle the decision within the realms of what she wants, because she held power.
Right.
Because even if he didn't make the right decision, he tried to. You understand what I'm saying? But ultimately, his prize was to try to please. But now she respected him. If it couldn't happen, it couldn't happen. But he went to her first. He comes to her. He doesn't go to his male counterparts. He went to her.
Right.
The ultimate decision was her.
That's like growing. Oh, I'm sorry, Dre.
No, go ahead. I got it.
Like in me growing up in the household, like it would be like, that's how it was with my parents. They had to discuss certain things first, and then they came to whatever decision. And then there were times where it's like, go ask your mother, go ask your father, go ask your
right.
mother. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
And I was a daddy's girl. I abused that. I did. I ain't even gonna lie. I abused it.
Yeah.
I abused it.
And one of the reasons why I asked, how important it is for the woman to have that spiritual or cultural fortitude in a home is because, just like growing up, like some people in my family growing up, when being Christian, my grandmother would bless things like olive oil, and she will rub it on you.
Yeah.
And
my grandma too.
That was a form of protection leaving the home. to make sure you were straight, along with prayer and all that other stuff. But I think it's highly important, in my opinion, for a woman to be spiritually and culturally sound going forward, because you guys have the ability to see sometimes what we can't see or what we won't see. So therefore, you offer up a level of protection going out into this world.
Speak.
But you got a lot of women who either are not taught that, don't know that, or know it, don't practice it, or in a phase of just seeking and moving into it. But I think going forward, just to be proactive about our personal households, because I mean, me personally, I'm for my people, but I understand that I'm not here to save my people. You know, I'm here to be a part of change that could be one atom, a part of the whole that can affect the whole. But I have to do my part within my own personal universe first. You know, people want to come and, you know, save us from this, that, and the third. And it's like, no, you have to start with self first, master that universe, and then be the example of how you're going to infect everything else. So the spiritual aspect is very important to me, because I feel like it goes back to what CK said about just using terms like Lord or King, because it's empowering. Believe it or not, it's that in itself is a form of protection. You know, words of power.
Hell, your name could be a word of power, and our names aren't really so powerful. You know,
I think with Dre, I like what you're saying, because that's where my passion comes in. I'm not here to save my people, but I'm definitely here to teach my people.
Right.
And you guys know me, always through high school, I was always open to any questions about my culture or things. But what is different is that there was a couple of us in high school, but there were very few, which was disappointing, that didn't claim that we were Black. And I've always said, I'm Black. You know, I had to prove I was Black, but I'm Black. I'm Black.
Right.
But just that experience of learning, because there's things that I wanted to be honest, there was things that I needed to learn. I needed to learn and see my identity in a different realm of coming from an all-white high. I needed to see you all. You know, I might have went in going scared, but I came out like a blooming flower. You know what I mean? And that was part of my culture. And that was something where I was either apprehensive to share, afraid, or whatever it was. But there were few, like you and a couple, that would come and ask me the weirdest questions. But that was something I appreciated, because you saw me. You know, that made me feel good. Right.
So my last question, just to kind of wrap this up, and we've been I like to say what's up to everybody in the chat, especially Pablo Chalk and everybody else. I think I got some family in the chat. Now keep in mind, I can see everybody's comments, but a lot of people don't have a name or a face by their comment, but I do see everybody's comments. So I appreciate you guys sending in your comments and your questions. So give thanks to that.
Was absolutely fun. Thank you for inviting me.
No doubt. I kind of move with just, my inner being feeling. So when I gravitate towards a person, and it's weird because we haven't had a conversation in years, but it's one of them things that I can feel, and I can be like, you know what? I need that person. I need that person. Yeah.
That's because you was my hacho. You used to make fun of me, but you was. I had your back. I
remember y'all days.
Dave Pugh said, "What's up, everybody?"
Hi, Dave.
Hey, David.
Yeah. Last question I got. Yeah. Dave goes back in the neighborhood. The last question I got for y'all sisters is sexual compatibility a must? And if so, why? I see y'all face.
I'm looking at Kim and I'm looking at Jay. I think we all think the same thing, but that is something that.
Go ahead. Y'all got the floor.
Sexual compatibility is more than just sex. It's not even about the sex.
Right.
We are introverts, meaning that we receive you all. So the compatibility is the whole aura, spiritual connection, to be able to have sex, Because if it ain't hitting, you're not getting in it. It's just that simple, you know. And so it's more than just the kind of term. I don't like sexual compatibility, but I do prefer, like, you know, spirit compatibility, because I don't know how to have sex without feeling. And if I'm having sex more than one time, eventually my feelings are going to be involved. Right. So I just never agreed with that. I never gravitated to that type of thing. But it's definitely more so a mental.
You know. Come on. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm moving around. I promised Dre that I would definitely do the show. So I came from a football situation at my sister's house where they had the TVs outside and they was frying fish and everything. I was sitting in the car doing the.
Oh, that's why I was sorry. Okay.
And now I drove home, so I'm sorry about like the.
No, don't be sorry, because you sure gave it to us a little while ago.
But the thing with sexual compatibility.
And before you answer, the reason why I didn't format it in Dre format, I wanted to keep it basic for the listeners, because, you know, I can add a lot of layers to sexual activity when it comes to just your aura feel, the exchange of energy, things attaching, we can get really deep with this, but I kept it basic for the sake of people who just gonna hear it and be like, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because, you know, man, you could be in a traumatic accident and nothing. But yeah.
I'm different when it comes to because I indulge heavy in occult. Right.
Same here.
And wait, what'd she say?
I love the occult. That I'm a walking crystal, I guess.
Yeah. Same here.
That's a whole nother situation. But and from my last time we had the podcast before about the spiritual and you know our beliefs. Mine isn't just something that came about from internet.
Right.
Mine was family based.
Yeah.
Right. But I think with it's a connect. You gotta have a most of my experiences. Not that I have many experiences. Let's make that clear. But
let's go.
More so, are you ending?
No, I'm gonna mute my microphone.
Okay.
I'm listening.
So most of it is dealing with connection on a different note. Right. Like anybody I dealt with, I had a connection with them. It was never sexual anyway. Right. It's the connection made that experience just a little bit better. You know?
Right, exactly.
Right. Because when you are dealing in sexual, and had I known this many years ago, I would have been quite careful of who I shared that type of energy with.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's the amount of energy that you exchange. Because what did they say? They say like every person that a woman sleeps with, she entraps that person to her DNA.
Right.
Yep. True.
You know what I'm saying? So that whole sexual thing is, I'm very mindful now. Even dealing with my partner, if he's been in there's been a period of time where I hadn't slept with my partner in 6 months, and it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me, and I don't know if it bothered him, because he was in such a disarray that I don't think he wanted to connect with me like that, and I didn't want to connect with him like that. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, it was like happening so fast, like we was in the Matrix or something like that. So, you know, he was in his going through whatever he was going through, He wasn't in a peaceful state. Because to me, when you exchange sexual energy, you have to be in a very balanced state. Both of you guys got to be in a balanced state, because it could go wrong. I could take on an energy where I'm hostile.
Right.
You could be eating meat, all types of animals that maybe died violently.
Yeah.
You know
Cell memory.
And people think that when you talk like this, oh, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. But the way an animal is killed, the adrenaline and all types of chemicals that go through that body of that animal can affect you.
Right.
So imagine a person that you're sleeping with, and he's passing fluid to you, and he's in that state of mind. He's violent.
Yes.
He's upset.
Yes.
Stressed. You're gonna take on every bit of that energy that man is possessing. So I'm very mindful of that sexual energy.
Cell memory is real. Cell memory is definitely real.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I don't even partake in it. It doesn't mean anything to me at this point.
And this that was a good breakdown. And I agree. And this goes into why a lot of these children today are a little wacky.
Yes.
Because their parents are not they're not let alone them not having the fundamentals of family structure. But imagine all the energetic debris that's attached to these kids and the things that they're doing, and they're bringing entities into this world that's riding that frequency. Now you got babies coming in here, and these babies is off whack. It's very real. Tasha, you've been quiet.
You pulled that thought out of my head.
Even on the show.
Yeah.
I forgot she was even on the show.
Oh my goodness.
I was gonna say Tasha is so silent. You pulled that right out of my head.
So before we wrap this up, we need you to you're gonna have to give a synopsis of everything we just discussed.
Well, okay, all right. Well, the ladies have been so like everything I was thinking they said before I could say it. So I was just like, yeah, right. I agree with everything. Like Kim was on point. Like everything these ladies were saying was like every time I would think it, they would say it as soon as I was thinking it. So I didn't have a time to. And I was like, yeah. I was just sitting back. But I mean, for me, if I was to condense it into one thing, I think the key word, and Pen said it, is balance, right? Because it all stems from balance of each other, whether it's balance of submission to each other, balance, like she said, you have to be kind of in tune with each other before you even get to that, for it to be a good sexual experience or whatever. It's all about balance, how we balance each other out, compliment each other, king, queen. That's what it all comes down to. The balance of it, because there is an exchange of energy, in the relationship. There is an exchange of energy, not just physical when you're intimate, but even mentally when you're talking to that person, or just being around them, or
Right.
Yeah, you guys are on fire. I was sitting here watching. I should have been off the show.
Kim was on fire.
No, it was. You guys are like on point. Like I said, every time that I thought of something, you guys already said it. So it wasn't much for me to say.
Right. Well, I mean, just to wrap things up, like I said, when I came in with the show, I needed you sisters' perspective on this. I didn't want to be, because I'm long-winded. I can talk about this, that, and the third, but I said I'm gonna play the back and let them do their thing. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. I want y'all to pretty much, air it out on, your experiences and where you guys are in this whole journey. And I appreciate everybody actually showing up. Kim.
I'm busy.
Yeah, I feel you. And definitely, when we do the last installment of the Urban Spiritual Journey, I'm gonna need you guys, okay? Because the last installment will be part 3, and I'm not doing any more segments on that. And that particular chapter is very important because we touched on a lot of things spiritually and culturally that I feel is the backdrop to, what we're dealing with now. All this stuff starts with spirit, and if we were in tune, like our elders were in tune with spirit, it kind of just trickles down into physicality, and we can have a better human experience if we're in tune with that method. But a lot of us are not tapped in spiritually. We don't even know how to hear, what's coming from the ethers, let alone feeling what's coming from the ethers. So we have to be told through those quote unquote elders that are tapped in, because they're getting the information coming from the unseen, and it comes down to them and they partake it to us and we follow suit. So now there's a change of the guard. Now these elders are switching out, and now we have to take their position. I'm not here to save the world. I'm here to master my universe and be an example, because what I do is going to have a ripple effect. And that's my advice to everyone, to master your universe, be the example, be the change that you want to see. And, we make our footprint, we make our mark, and then stories are told about us at some point, and when our personal stories are told, we want our stories to be told like we honor and revere those ancestors that came before us. That's the light that I want to be spoke upon, when they speak about me. But you got to do the work to have that. It's not just given. So is there anything else anybody want to say before we get out of here? April said what's up to everybody. April from high school.
Hey, April.
Yeah.
So hey, Boo-Tang.
Yeah. The chat was bumping. So I appreciate everybody showing up. And yeah. CK came through. And,
I almost didn't, because I've not been feeling. I was sick the last 2 days. I almost didn't, but I can't. I like, no, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna call out.
Are you feeling better now?
Call out.
Well, what I did was I'm not a vegan. I'm pescatarian, so I got into wanting some comfort food, and I made some chicken curry soup and some stews, and I shocked my system a little bit, so it was not well. Did not sit well, did not come out well, it just threw me off track. And once you decide to not enter some, just unless it's organic, unless it's 100% organic or in moderation, I just went in and went, oh, it's fall season, let me go turn on the stove, and wasn't a good idea. I mean,
one extreme leads to another.
But I eat curry every day. You know that curry goes on everything. Yes,
that's what's up. Which is healthy. The turmeric that's in curry, we can have a whole discussion about that.
I put it on my face, my hair. I put it everywhere.
Yeah, it's very therapeutic. But yeah, guys, we're gonna go ahead and shut this down. I'm your brother Mordeeb. This is another POD podcast. Please like, subscribe, and share. And I appreciate everybody. I'm just in a state of gratitude. So we're gonna give thanks and we're gonna get out of here. And until the next time, peace.